Marcus stepped from the silver starliner into a vast hall that glowed with soft crystal light. His heart beat fast as he took in the scene before him. Tall columns carved with swirling designs rose to a ceiling made of living glass, through which he could see twin suns setting over the purple gardens beyond. He wore his best formal suit, a simple dark uniform trimmed in silver, and he felt every eye turned toward him. Despite the color and noise around him, he kept his head high and his shoulders straight, determined to honor the invitation he had been given. He reminded himself that he was here not as a tourist or a spy, but as a guest of honor at a wedding that could shape the future of two worlds. As he moved slowly among the crowd of Earlethian dignitaries, each with skin in shades he had never seen before, emerald green, soft violet, and pale gold, he felt a mixture of awe and anxiety. He had studied Earlethian culture for months before his journey, memorizing their protocols, their language, and even their traditional songs. Yet nothing had quite prepared him for the gentle glow of their smiling faces or the rich scents of the flowers that drifted on the warm breeze. He breathed in the scent of moon blossom and felt a gentle calm wash over him, reminding him why he had accepted this invitation. He had come to build bridges, to show that humanity could be a friend, and maybe in his own quiet way. To prove that courage and kindness could cross even the widest gaps between worlds. As he paused by a fountain of luminescent water, a small figure in a flowing blue robe approached him. It was Kellara, a palace steward, who had welcomed him at the starport. She bowed low, her long silver hair falling like a river of light down her back. Marcus offered a respectful nod in return. "Guest Marcus," she said in careful common, her voice soft like silk. "The princess awaits in the east wing for the evening tea. Would you like a guide?" Marcus felt relief bloom in his chest. He nodded gratefully and followed her through a hallway lined with living murals that shifted and sang gentle melodies. Every step he took felt like a dance with history. The halls whispered of treaties and festivals, of marriages that had united planets and peace that had followed. He ran his fingers along a mural that rippled with light, showing ancient Earlethian ships meeting humans in the blackness between stars. He wondered if one day his own face would be remembered among those legends. Despite the grandeur, he felt no fear. Instead, he felt warmth at the thought that he was part of something larger than himself. At the end of the corridor, a set of arched doors opened onto a balcony that overlooked a garden of glowing trees. Tiny lights drifted like fireflies among the branches, and soft music played from unseen instruments. There, standing beneath the arch of moonlight, was Princess Iridessa. She wore a gown of white petals that shimmered with every movement, and her long hair was braided with strands of silver and rose. She turned and smiled at Marcus, a smile that seemed to light the world around her. Marcus felt a soft rush in his chest, as though someone had opened a hidden gate in his heart. He bowed deeply, feeling both honored and humbled. When he straightened, Iridessa offered him her hand in greeting. Her touch was gentle, and her eyes shone with curiosity. "Welcome, Marcus of Earth," she said. Her voice was warm and melodious, carrying a hint of amusement. "I hope you find our wedding memorable." Marcus managed to smile, though his throat felt tight. "I am honored, Your Highness," he replied. "Your world is more beautiful than I could have imagined." For a moment they stood together in silence, watching the lights drift through the air. Around them, the garden hummed with life and a promise. In that moment, Marcus felt as though time itself had paused, giving them space to feel the importance of what lay before them. He was here for a ceremony of unity, but already he sensed a deeper connection unfolding. Despite his nerves and the strangeness of this alien world, he felt at home. And as he glanced at the princess's kind face, he realized that this wedding might change his life forever. After the tea in the East Wing, Marcus was led through a wide set of double doors into a vast open courtyard alive with laughter and music. He paused for a moment to breathe in the sweet scent of star petal blooms that floated in the gentle breeze, their petals glowing in soft shades of pink and blue all around him. Guests from many worlds shared stories and delights. A tall Erlethian woman with silvery skin taught a group how to dance the spiral waltz, her arms moving in graceful circles as she called out counts in a lilting rhythm. Marcus watched, fascinated, as each footfall made tiny lights flicker. Along the mosaic floor beneath their feet, nearby, a trio of small furred creatures hopped about, offering guests strange fruits that tasted of honey and mint. He accepted one from a kindly scholar who explained its name in careful common, then bit into the fruit and felt a cool sweetness flood his mouth. Stepping further, Marcus entered a long pavilion draped in shimmering fabrics that caught the light of floating orbs overhead. Long tables ran down its center, laden with dishes he had never seen, golden spheres that burst with citrus foam, crystalline noodles that danced on the tongue, and spiced cakes that seemed to hum with warmth. Lifted a small cup of violet tea offered by a robed attendant, and sipped it slowly, savoring the calm that spread through his chest. As he did, he noticed a pair of young Erlethian nobles watching him curiously from across the table. Their eyes were the color of pale lavender, and their smiles were bright but cautious. Gathering his courage, Marcus stood and approached them with a respectful bow. He introduced himself, explaining that he had come from the planet Earth to honor the princess. The nobles' faces lit with interest. They told him of their own world's holidays, of laughter that filled the streets for days as people painted their homes with living ink that glowed under their moonlight. Marcus shared tales of Earth's holiday markets and fireworks that painted the night sky in brilliant colors. As the conversation grew, more guests joined, curious about the human visitor who spoke their language so well. Marcus found himself surrounded by new friends, a botanist who studied the floating moons that orbited Araleth, a musician who played a stringed instrument that sounded like wind chimes mixed with a heartbeat, and a poet who recited verses, in a voice so soft that Marcus leaned closer to catch each word. The poet's lines spoke of unity and hope, of two worlds meeting at a crossroads of light and promise. Marcus felt a warmth in his heart that went deeper than pride. He realized that these strangers, once so alien, were now as familiar as old. Friends. Just then, a rich voice called his name. Marcus turned to see Princess Iridessa gliding toward him. Her gown now changed to a lighter blue that matched the flowers behind her. She carried a small harp, its strings glowing with a faint silver light. She offered it to Marcus with a gentle smile. "Would you like to try?" she asked. Marcus hesitated, then took the instrument, noting the delicate curve of its frame, and the soft hum from its strings. Iridessa guided his fingers to a simple chord, and as he plucked the string, a clear note rang out across the pavilion. The guests fell silent, listening as Marcus managed a few more notes under the princess's patient direction. When he finished, there was a moment of hush before the crowd burst into warm applause. Iridessa's eyes shone with pride, and Marcus felt a swell of joy at making her happy. Later, as lanterns were lit along the garden paths, Marcus and Iridessa walked side by side, talking quietly. She told him of her dreams to explore other worlds, to learn new arts and languages. He shared his own hopes of bringing peace between humans and Erlethians, forging alliances that would last for generations. Above them, delicate lanterns floated into the sky, drifting toward the stars. Marcus watched them rise, feeling a soft hope blossom inside him. In that moment, he knew this night was more than a festival or a ceremony. It was the beginning of something that neither of them could yet fully imagine, but both would carry in their hearts forever. After the tea in the east wing, Marcus was led through a wide set of double doors into a vast open courtyard, alive with laughter and music. He paused for a moment to breathe in the sweet scent of star petal blooms that floated in the gentle breeze, their petals glowing in soft shades of pink and blue. All around him, guests from many worlds shared stories and delights. A tall Erlethian woman with silvery skin taught a group how to dance the spiral waltz, her arms moving in graceful circles as she called out counts in a lilting rhythm. Marcus watched, fascinated, as each footfall made tiny lights flicker along the mosaic floor beneath their feet. Nearby, a trio of small furred creatures hopped about, offering guests strange fruits that tasted of honey and mint. He accepted one from a kindly scholar who explained its name in careful common, then bit into the fruit and felt a cool sweetness flood his mouth. Stepping further, Marcus entered a long pavilion draped in shimmering fabrics that caught the light of floating orbs overhead. Long tables ran down its center, laden with dishes he had never seen, golden spheres that burst with citrus foam, crystalline noodles that danced on the tongue, and spiced cakes that seemed to hum with warmth. He lifted a small cup of violet tea offered by a robed attendant and sipped it slowly, savoring the calm that spread through his chest. As he did, he noticed a pair of young Orlethian nobles watching him curiously from across the table. Their eyes were the color of pale lavender, and their smiles were bright but cautious. Gathering his courage, Marcus stood and approached them with a respectful bow. He introduced himself, explaining that he had come from the planet Earth to honor the princess. The nobles' faces lit with interest. They told him of their own world's holidays, of laughter that filled the streets for days as people painted their homes with living ink that glowed under their moonlight. Marcus shared tales of Earth's holiday markets and fireworks that painted the night sky in brilliant colors. As the conversation grew, more guests joined, curious about the human visitor who spoke their language so well. Marcus found himself surrounded by new friends, a botanist who studied the floating moons that orbited Arleth, a musician who played a stringed instrument that sounded like wind chimes mixed with a heartbeat, and a poet who recited verses, in a voice so soft that Marcus leaned closer to catch each word. The poet's lines spoke of unity and hope, of two worlds meeting at a crossroads of light and promise. Marcus felt a warmth in his heart that went deeper than pride. He realized that these strangers, once so alien, were now as familiar as old friends. Just then, a rich voice called his name. Marcus turned to see Princess Iridessa gliding toward him, her gown now changed to a lighter blue that matched the flowers behind her. She carried a small harp, its strings glowing with a faint silver light. She offered it to Marcus with a gentle smile. "Would you like to try?" she asked. Marcus hesitated, then took the instrument, noting the delicate curve of its frame and the soft hum from its strings. Iridessa guided his fingers to a simple chord, and as he plucked the string, a clear note rang out across the pavilion. The guests fell silent, listening as Marcus managed a few more notes under the princess's patient direction. When he finished, there was a moment of hush before the crowd burst into warm applause. Iridessa's eyes shone with pride, and Marcus felt a swell of joy at making her happy. Later, as lanterns were lit along the garden paths, Marcus and Iridessa walked side by side, talking quietly. She told him of her dreams to explore other worlds, to learn new arts and languages. He shared his own hopes of bringing peace between humans and Orlethians, forging alliances that would last for generations. Above them, delicate lanterns floated into the sky, drifting toward the stars. Marcus watched them rise, feeling a soft hope blossom inside him. In that moment, he knew this night was more than a festival or a ceremony. It was the beginning of something that neither of them could yet fully imagine, but both would carry in their hearts forever. As the great doors opened, Marcus entered the central ceremony hall and felt a wave of quiet joy wash over him. High above, the transparent ceiling arched in soft curves, revealing the pale glow of the twin suns. Rows of pillars carved with living vines lined the hall on either side, and at the far end, a raised dais held the golden altar where the marriage rites would begin. Marcus's heart swelled to see Princess Iridessa standing there in her ceremonial gown of flowing white silk, trimmed with threads that caught the light like stardust. Her eyes found his across the room, and she offered him a smile that felt like a promise of shared futures. The hall was filled with music from invisible harpists and flutists, their melodies rising and falling like gentle waves. The guests sat on cushions of woven light, their faces shining with expectation. Marcus took his place among the honored attendees, sitting beside Queen Scifi. He straightened his posture and breathed deeply, remembering his role, to show respect, to embrace tradition, and to stand by the princess in her most sacred moment. As the chanting began, the air seemed to hum. Orlethian priests in robes of deep purple advanced down the aisle, carrying sacred offerings of crystal vials filled with morning dew from the highest moonlit peaks. Iridessa's hand rested on the arm of her father, King Thyril, whose deep, Voice joined the chant in a low, steady rhythm. Marcus watched in awe as each syllable floated through the air, weaving a tapestry of sound that bound two souls and two worlds together. Suddenly, the ground beneath the hall trembled. Guests paused, their expressions turning from reverence to alarm. A faint crack sounded far off, followed by distant shouts. Marcus's instincts kicked in. He rose from his seat and scanned the hall. At the entrance, two guards hurried past, their weapons drawn but faces tight with concern. The chanting stopped, replaced by the murmur of worried voices. Princess Iridessa looked toward the doors, her brow creasing with fear. Marcus stepped forward and spoke gently, his voice calm but firm. "Your Highness, please remain here. I will see what has happened." Iridessa gave him a quick nod, her trust in him shining in her eyes. He moved toward the entrance, heart thundering as more guards crowded the doorway. Outside the hall, chaos bloomed like a dark flower. A group of masked figures had lit fires in the outer courtyard, their pale flames twisting against the marble walls. They carried banners painted with words of protest, denouncing the union of human and Earlethian as a betrayal of ancient laws. The guards formed a barrier, but the protesters pressed forward, shouting slogans in their harsh tongue. A young page, no older than a child, clutched one of the ceremonial banners and trembled with fear. Marcus rushed toward the page, pushing past startled guests and guards. The child's wide eyes locked on his face, and for a moment Marcus felt the weight of every life in the palace on his shoulders. He knelt beside the page and laid a hand on her shaking shoulder. His warm voice cut through the roar of protest. "You are safe," he said in gentle common. "We will protect you." The page's eyes filled with tears as Marcus wrapped his cloak around her small frame, shielding her from view. Protesters paused, their anger momentarily arrested by Marcus's calm bravery. He stood and spoke to the crowd, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "These are not enemies," he said, motioning to the page. "This child serves the princess, not mankind. Show her respect." His words fell like pebbles in still water. Some protesters lowered their masks, revealing faces not of hate, but of doubt. Guards moved in to escort the page and Marcus back toward the hall's safety. Inside, Iridessa waited at the threshold, fear and relief mingling in her gaze. Marcus carried the page to her side and knelt, presenting the child with a reassuring smile. Iridessa knelt beside them and gently took the page's hand, her calm presence soothing the frightened girl. The crowd of guests, seeing the royal family, united with Marcus and the page, broke into applause that echoed through the hall's vaulted ceiling. King Thurl stepped forward and raised his voice above the cheers. "Let this day be remembered not for fear, but for courage, compassion, and unity." His words rang true in the hearts of all who heard them. The fires outside were extinguished, the banners taken down, and the extremists led away in peace. As the ceremony resumed, Marcus returned to his place beside Iridessa. His heart still pounded, but now with pride and relief. He had faced danger, calmed a child, and shown that kindness could bridge even the fiercest divides. Princess Iridessa reached for his hand, and he took it, feeling once again the spark of connection that had grown between them.
Together they
faced the altar, ready to bind their lives and their worlds together forever. After the ceremony, Marcus was led to a private audience chamber with King Thyrol and Princess Iridessa. The king's eyes were kind, but serious as he addressed Marcus. "You saved my daughter and our guests," he said.
Oh.
"But these protesters will not rest until we punish them." Marcus bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I believe they need to speak and be heard, not punished. Let us open a path for them to share their fears and hopes." Iridessa placed her hand on Marcus's arm, her grip gentle and encouraging. The king studied Marcus for a long moment, then nodded. In the protest chamber, lit by pale blue lanterns, a small group of Earlethians waited with tired faces. Their banners lay rolled at their feet. A tall man with bronze skin and worried eyes stepped forward. He spoke in firm tones about ancient laws and the fear that human influence would erase RLS traditions. Marcus listened quietly, leaning forward in his chair, so that the man could feel his full attention. When the man finished, Marcus spoke in clear, gentle common. I understand your love for your customs. On Earth, we respect each culture's songs and stories. We do not erase them. We learn from them. I promise that we will honor Alethian ways as we build our friendship. As Marcus spoke, Iridessa joined in, her voice soft but strong. She told of the beauty she saw in her people's art and said, I want to share our dances and our poems with Earth. I want humans to learn from us and we from them. The protesters' tense expressions softened. One woman, her skin the color of twilight, wiped her eyes and said, If you will protect our songs and our festivals, then perhaps this union can bring good. Marcus smiled and stood. He offered both hands in a gesture of peace.
Let us
Form a council of culture. We will meet each month and plan events where humans and our Lethians teach each other. The king rose and walked around the circle, his golden robes flowing behind him. He placed a hand on the tall man's shoulder and said, Your worries have been heard and your hearts have been seen. From this day we walk forward together. The room shone with relief and hope. Iridessa embraced the bronze-skinned man, and Marcus felt warmth bloom in his chest. In that moment, he knew they had built more than a bridge. They had begun a living bond between worlds. Later, in the great hall, a new reception began. Tables were set under glowing vines, and music filled the air once more. Humans and Arlethians danced side by side. Marcus laughed as he learned a new waltz step, his hand steady on Iridessa's waist. She whispered, You have done more than I ever dreamed, he replied, voice low. It was your faith in me that gave me courage. Around them, guests tasted Earth's wine and Arlethian spice cakes, and the two peoples shared stories late into the night as the celebration drew to a close. Marcus stood on a balcony with Iridessa, looking out at the palace gardens. Tiny lights drifted above the flowers like starlight fallen to earth. He took her hand and felt its soft warmth. I came here as a guest, he said, but you made me part of your family. Iridessa smiled, her eyes shining like twin moons. And you made my world larger than I ever knew. In the quiet that followed, they watched the final lanterns rise into the sky, carrying their hopes toward the stars. In that moment, Marcus knew that this union of heart and mind would change both their worlds forever. When the fires in the courtyard were fully extinguished and calm returned, King Thyrol rose from his golden throne. Marcus stood with Iridessa at his side, their hands lightly touching. The hall fell silent as the king raised his voice. Our ancient law, he declared, any guest who defends our princess in her hour of need must be offered the sacred bond of marriage. A soft murmur of surprise passed through the guests. Marcus's heart thundered in his chest. He looked at Iridessa, whose eyes shone with pride and warmth. The king continued, Marcus of Earth has shown courage, wisdom, and compassion. He has earned both our trust and our hearts. At these words, the crowd rose to its feet, clapping and cheering. Marcus felt tears prick at his eyes as he realized the full weight of this moment. He was no longer just a visitor, but part of this royal family. Princess Iridessa stepped forward, her gown of white silk rustling like soft wind. She lifted a crystal, chalice filled with the sacred moondew, and offered it to Marcus. Drink with me, she said, her voice steady and kind. Marcus took the chalice, his hand trembling slightly, and brought it to his lips. As the cool liquid touched his tongue, he felt a gentle spark of light within his mind, a bond forming between him and the princess. The king gestured to two priests, who brought forward a pair of rings crafted from star-forged silver. Each ring bore the pattern of intertwining vines, symbolizing unity and growth. Iridessa placed one ring on Marcus's finger with a soft smile. Then Marcus took the second ring and slipped it onto her delicate hand. A hum of energy pulsed through the hall, as if the very air recognized their union. Marcus bowed his head. I vow to protect you, Princess Iridessa, he said in clear, respectful, common. I vow to honor your people, to learn your ways, and to stand beside you always. His voice rang out, steady with feeling. Iridessa's eyes glistened as she replied, and I vow to share my world with you, to open my heart and my home, to walk with you wherever the stars may lead. Crowd erupted in joyous applause. Humans and Arlethians cheered together, their voices blending as one. Marcus felt warmth flood his chest as he looked at Iridessa's shining face. In that moment, he knew he had found something deeper than any diplomatic mission could offer. He found love, trust, and a promise of new beginnings. After the formal rites, the music returned, softer now, more intimate. Marcus and Iridessa walked hand in hand down the aisle, greeting each guest with smiles and bows. Everywhere they passed, faces lit up with happiness. Children reached out to touch Iridessa's gown or Marcus's cloak, curious and joyful. Marcus knelt with them, making them laugh, and Iridessa whispered stories of their new bond. That evening, in the grand hall-turned-ballroom, Marcus led Iridessa in a slow dance beneath floating lanterns. Each step felt like a promise. Each turn, a new discovery. The crowd watched in quiet admiration as the human and the alien moved as one. When the dance ended, Marcus held Iridessa close and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me." She smiled against his shoulder and replied, "Thank you for answering my world's call." As the night wore on, Marcus and Iridessa stood on the balcony overlooking the gardens. Tiny lights drifted upward like stars released to the sky. Marcus drew Iridessa close and looked into her eyes. "I came here to attend a wedding," he said softly, "but I found my own destiny." Iridessa placed her hand on his cheek and answered, "And I found mine with you." Below them, the palace glowed with the promise of unity. Two worlds once distant now stood together in hope and friendship. Marcus held Iridessa's hand tightly, feeling the bond they had forged. In that perfect moment, surrounded by light and music and the gentle night air, they knew that their marriage would guide both their peoples toward a brighter future. In the days after their wedding, Marcus and Princess Iridessa embraced their new roles as partners in both life and leadership. Each morning, they met in the sunlit council chamber, where humans and Arlethians gathered around a long table. Of living crystal, Marcus read reports from Earth envoys, while Iridessa shared news of Arlethian art festivals and cultural exchanges. Their voices blended in respectful harmony as they planned events that would bring their peoples closer. One afternoon, they walked together through the palace gardens, now bursting with hybrid blossoms flowers grown from earth seeds grafted onto Arlethian vines. The air was sweet with their scent, and tiny motes of light drifted among the petals. Iridessa reached out to touch a pale blue bloom, and Marcus watched her fingers brush the soft petals. "These flowers are like our worlds," she said softly. "Separate at first, but now growing into something new and beautiful." Marcus smiled and took her hand. "And like us, they will thrive when we care for them together." That evening, the newly formed Council of Culture held its first meeting in the Grand Hall. Dignitaries from both planets sat on glowing cushions, their faces full of hope. Marcus stood and spoke in clear common, his words carrying across the hall. "Today we begin a journey of understanding. We will share stories, music, and food. We will learn from one another, and in that learning, we will find strength." Iridessa added, "We will host the Festival of Twin Moons next month, where Earth dancers and Arlethian poets will perform under our shared sky. Together, we will celebrate our new life." The crowd erupted in applause, and Marcus felt a warm pride at the sight of two worlds celebrating as one. Late that night, Marcus and Iridessa sat on the palace balcony, looking out over the softly lit city. The spires of Arlesta towers glowed like stars against the dark sky. Far below, lanterns drifted among the streets where humans and Arlethians danced to a new song when Marcus had written with the princess at his side. He hummed the melody softly, and Iridessa leaned her head on his shoulder. "You've given my people a gift," she whispered. "Hope and unity." Marcus kissed her forehead and replied, "You opened my heart to a world I never knew I needed." In the weeks that followed, ships from Earth arrived at Araleth spaceport, carrying engineers, artists, and scholars. Marcus welcomed them, guiding them through customs halls where Alethian banners fluttered alongside Earth flags. Iridessa showed them the floating gardens and taught them the spiral waltz, her laughter echoing through the domes as she danced. With human children, Marcus felt his heart swell with joy. Their marriage had become the bridge by which two civilizations stepped into a shared future. One clear morning, the royal couple stood before a new monument in the palace courtyard, a tall sculpture of two figures, one human, when Alethian hands joined beneath a rising sun. Marcus laid a wreath of earth roses and Iridessa placed garlands of moon petals around its base. Together, they spoke a vow to honor peace and friendship for all time. A chorus of voices rose in unison, chanting a promise of unity that blended both languages into a single song. As the sun set on their first month as spouses, Marcus and Iridessa returned to their private garden, where the hybrid flowers glowed in the dusk. They sat on a stone bench, carved with stories of old treaties and new dreams. Marcus turned to Iridessa, his eyes full of wonder. "I came here to attend a wedding," he said, "and I found a life I could have never imagined." Iridessa smiled, her hand resting on his. "And I found a partner who sees the best in both our worlds." They watched as the first lanterns of the Festival of Twin Moons rose, carrying hopes from both planets into the starry sky. In that moment, they knew their marriage was more than a bond between two people, was a promise to everyone they loved. On Earth and on Araleth, that hope and kindness could build something greater than any one world alone. And as the lanterns drifted upward, Marcus and Iridessa stood together, hearts and hands joined, ready to guide the civilizations toward a brighter tomorrow.